Hey, I have an idea. Mr. President, why don't you give him a pardon? Give him a pardon. Come on. By the way, that was not in the speech, as you probably know. But I happen to like this gentleman right over here, and it just seems to make so much sense. You know, whether we like it or not, this has been one of the greatest wartime presidents. This has been one of the greatest wartime presidents. And cigars and champagne, who the hell cares about that? All right, enough controversy for the day, right? This is not only the end of a war. This is the end of an age of terror and death and the beginning of the age of faith and hope and of God. It's the start of a grand concord and lasting harmony for Israel and all the nations of what will soon be a truly magnificent region. I believe that so strongly. This is the historic dawn of a new Middle East. This man is a good man right here. These two men are good men right here. Hey, I have an idea. Mr. President, why don't you give him a pardon? Give him a pardon. Come on. By the way, that was not in the speech, as you probably know. But I happen to like this gentleman right over here, and it just seems to make so much sense. You know, whether we like it or not, this has been one of the greatest wartime presidents. This has been one of the greatest wartime presidents. And cigars and champagne, who the hell cares about that? Okay. This took 3,000 years to get to this point. Can you believe it? And it's going to hold up, too. It's going to hold up. Okay, then hold it up. I don't hold up the signature page, yeah. This is something that's taken off like a rocket ship, and it did from the beginning, and I've heard for years this is the biggest deal, it'll never happen. For years, long before I ran for office, that this is the Middle East. It's the biggest, most complicated deal, and also it's the place that could lead to tremendous problems like World War III. They always talked about World War III would start in the Middle East, and that's not going to happen. This is the day that people across the region and around the world have been working, striving, hoping, and praying for. They have done things over the last month that I think were really unthinkable. Nobody thought this could happen. With the historic agreement we've just signed, those prayers of millions have finally been answered. It all came together just at one little period. It just came together. The greatest deals happen that way. If you do anything about deals, that's all I've done all my life is deals. The greatest deals just sort of happen. And that's what happened right here. And maybe this is going to be the greatest deal of them all.
How did you get out, and how did Keith get out?
I got it out on a deal that all the women and the children, after 51 days, Keith stayed there for 1 year and 4 months, and he came out on a deal.
And he's American.
He's American.
And he was just, you told me, in Washington meeting with President Trump?
Yes. He didn't meet President Trump, he spoke to him, and I want to say that Keith, since he came back for the last 8 months, has been 5 times in the States. I was there 17 times. I met everybody that you can think about. I met more than 100 congressmen, and I became very close to Witkoff. I talked to him all the time, and I want to thank President Trump.
You're talking about the president's personal special envoy, Steve Witkoff.
Yes, and he's working hard around the clock, and I want to thank him for that from the bottom of my heart. I want to thank him from this whole country. We need to smile. We've been waiting for it for too long. It's been so sad, just so sad. And for us, Keith and I, being a hostage, knowing what's happening there and what they're feeling, the hostages, is one of the worst things that any person can go through.
So many of the hostage families I've been seeing here at Hostage Square are telling me they give so much credit to President Trump for making this happen.
You know, I want to say that he's got such a big part in it, and I want to thank him, and we all want to thank him. But I do know that soldiers have been working so hard, and so many of them have died.
Israeli soldiers.
Israeli soldiers have died because they've done everything they could to bring the hostages home. So I think it's like a work that they did together. And our president, Bibi Netanyahu, has pushed and wants them home alive. And we've got so many hostages that didn't make it. So it's a very, very happy moment, because I think the little ones that will come back and will be able to live their lives with their families, and their families have been waiting. But there's lots of sadness of the ones that will never come back alive.
A lot of people here are so excited like you are, so happy that this is about to take place, but they're also so nervous that, God forbid, something could go wrong. Are you among them?
No. I'm happy. It's going to happen. I'm keeping my strength for good things, and it's going to happen. It can't not happen. It just can't not happen. It's going to happen. I believe that. From the minute I heard that the deal is coming true, I believed it. And I've been around people that have asking me, are you sure about it? And what happens if it doesn't happen? I'm sure about it. It's going to happen.
I'm with you. I hope you get to hug all those hostages who are coming back very, very soon.
Can I give you a hug?
Please. Okay.
Thank you.
בהצלחה.
Thank you.
This is an emotional evening, an evening of tears, an evening of joy, because tomorrow sons will return to their homeland. This is a historic event that blends sorrow over the release of murderers and joy over the return of hostages. This is a historic event that some did not believe would happen, but our fighters believed, many among the people believed, and I believed. I know there are many disagreements among us, but on this day, and I hope also in the period ahead, we have every reason to put them aside, because through joint efforts we achieved enormous victories, victories that astonished the entire world.
I'm very sad that Hirsch isn't here, but thank God for the 20 or so families who can hug their relative and be joyful again.
A big part of our hearts has been thinking about praying for and advocating for the hostages for 2 years. We are so happy, we are so overjoyed that the living hostages are home. We are heartbroken that many did not survive.
We have told them we want to disarm, and they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently. But they will disarm. Do you understand me? It's a long day, and we did a couple of big ones. That first one was it's getting great reviews, I will tell you. There's a lot of meat in there. They're dissecting it and just playing it all night long. It's been It's been very good. I think it's a very important day, because nobody thought this was possible.
It has been a long-stated goal of President Donald Trump's to bring the war in Gaza to an end, and he had the chance to visit the region after helping broker a ceasefire agreement that so many hope will lead to a permanent end of the conflict. Trump is receiving credit for the role that he played here, as several world leaders have acknowledged his diplomatic efforts, and chants of "Thank you, Trump" have been heard on the ground in recent days. There were a couple of key stops during his visit. Trump arrived in Israel, where he met with hostage family members and addressed the Israeli parliament. He then visited Egypt for a signing ceremony and a summit focused on what's next for Gaza, specifically what stability and security could look like going forward.
This is not only the end of a war. This is the end of an age of terror and death, and the beginning of the age of faith and hope and of God. It's the start of a grand concord and lasting harmony for Israel and all the nations of what will soon be a truly magnificent region. I believe that so strongly. This is the historic dawn of a new Middle East.
Now, this is a big moment, but it's important to note that there are still a lot of questions. When Trump announced that Israel and Hamas had agreed to phase 1 of his 20-point proposal to end the war, he did not address some of the key sticking points, including Hamas disarmament, as well as the future governance of Gaza. At the White House, I'm Julia Benbrook.
Emotional reunions as the final 20 hostages held by Hamas were reunited with their families across Israel. People cheered in Tel Aviv, celebrating this milestone moment. Under a U.S. brokered ceasefire deal, hundreds of Palestinian prisoners and detainees were met with large crowds as they also reunited with their relatives in the West Bank. President Donald Trump declared a dawn of a new Middle East.
This deal, this once-in-a-lifetime deal, nobody's ever seen anything like what's happening today.
On Monday, photos released by the Israeli Prime Minister's office show a freed hostage playing with his children for the first time in 2 years. Families say they never stopped fighting for the release of their loved ones.
Keep sharing your stories to policymakers. Keep telling us what do you think needs to happen, and give us ideas on how we can break the deadlock. And we kept doing that. They kept open the White House for us. And President Trump has done it.
President Trump said that phase 2 of his 20-point ceasefire plan to end the war between Israel and Hamas has already started as he meets with world leaders in Egypt for a summit on Gaza's future and peace in the Middle East.
You look at Gaza, it needs a lot of cleanup.
This is clearly, in my mind, I think in the mind of everyone in this room, probably one of the most important days for world peace in 50 years.
I'm Maribel Gonzalez reporting.
President Trump has talked, what needs to be done in Gaza in terms of rebuilding, in terms of sort of finding the funding and money from that for leaders from the region. And he said some of those leaders have come forward and offered money. But the sort of hard and difficult issues that await Gaza are the international stabilization force. How many troops? We've heard 20,000 to 40,000, but who's going to provide them? What will their mandate be? Will they have a UN backing? What will their rules of engagement do? What happens if a gunman comes out on the street and points a weapon at them? Are they entitled to shoot first before they're shot at? Questions like that. We got none of that sense of detail from President Trump. And he was in that room with all those leaders. And really, we understood they'd come in wanting to try to get momentum from phase 1 to phase 2, from the ceasefire, hostage release, prisoner release, to all those other remaining questions on President Trump's 20-point plan. And you can sort of look at the faces of the leaders that were lined up behind President Trump when he was speaking here in Sharm. You had Prime Minister of Greece, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, standing behind him. Giorgia Meloni, the Italian Prime Minister, next to him, next to her, was the Pakistani Prime Minister, Shehbaz Sharif. He gave a very glowing speech of praise to President Trump, a speech, by the way, thanking the president for the peace that he brought between India and Pakistan, which that war had really escalated earlier on in the year. I was there. President Trump, the United States, was heavily involved in de-escalating there. But also, you have to remember the Pakistan Prime Minister looking for a better relationship with the US President as well. Next to him, you had the British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, the Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, next to him. And the look on their faces sort of told you, like, where is the momentum? They weren't necessarily rolling their eyes, but they were standing behind the president giving a very long speech, and I think a lot of them had been hoping to get more or understand more or see more momentum, and that didn't connect. And another sense of that lack of momentum perhaps came from the fact that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, perhaps the closest country to Egypt, to Sharm el-Sheikh, didn't come. He sent his very capable foreign minister, the leader of the UAE, United Arab Emirates. He didn't come. He sent a very capable vice president. But the symbolism and signaling that these very powerful and influential and rich leaders in the region, that they actually didn't come, really symbolizes perhaps the fact that there wasn't a lot of detail in the document. There really are a lot of dots left to be joined up. And of course, that is the worry now. If you don't have the detail down now, how do you keep the momentum? How do you get that stabilizing force in quickly? How do you prevent Hamas gaining ground, gaining strength again in Gaza? Israel is waiting for the international community to disarm Hamas. These are the sort of competing tensions, and I don't believe we got a sense of progress on that from what President Trump said.
Can we get the documents, please?
We've just seen Donald Trump, the president of Egypt, the emir of Qatar, and the president of Turkey all sign the agreement here, which effectively, to their minds, ends the war in Gaza. There is an awful lot still to do in order to ensure that that war is over and that there is a prospect for future peace in the Middle East. But if you were to ask anybody in the room where he was today, any of those leaders, including those guarantors, those mediators who have cut this ceasefire deal and are hoping that this is an end to the war, they are guaranteeing that both sides will keep to this commitment. That is the idea of this. They will all tell you in that room that they want this conflict to end. This conflict in Gaza is the through line to potential peace in the Middle East.